Hey, this is Pat, and today we're checking out the all-new Alpinestars S-M7 helmet. Now, if you're familiar with Alpinestars and their dirt helmets, you know that they got Jet Lawrence, they have Deegan wearing these every weekend in Supercross and Motocross. And if you're looking at the SM7, this is going to be the step down from the one that they're actually wearing, the SM10. So the SM7 is going to step up just underneath of that top-of-the-line helmet, and all you're really dropping out of that is the carbon fiber out of the entire shell. So you're looking at a fiberglass composite main construction for the SM7, and when I say that, it's actually a composite multi-layer system, so they are using some carbon fiber in there, they are mostly using fiberglass, and they are also using aramid to build the entire shell on the SM7. But the nice part is, with dropping that carbon fiber out of the top of the line unit, you're actually saving a couple bucks out there. So you're looking at about $460 for the stock ones. With these graphics that I have up in front of me, it's about $520 for the graphic styles, and that is subject to change depending on the market out there. But when you're looking at them right out of the gate, that is a couple $100 off of what you'd be paying for the top of the line units. They also have the 5, they also have the 3, which are going to be made out of polycarb shells with a lot less features built in. But what I like is, if you're not someone who really needs the carbon fiber and the weight savings of about 1, maybe 2 ounces out of it, you can save a couple $100 and still get all the premium protections that the pro racers are getting out there. So I mentioned the shell size. You are getting 3 shells. That breakdown is going to be extra small to medium. Large gets its own shell size, and then extra large up to 2 extra large is that third and final shell size. It's going to be DOT. It's also going to be ECE 2206 rated, so it's going to be something that a lot of people are looking for the safety side. And when it comes to weight, you're looking about 2 pounds 12 ounces in a size medium, which is pretty solid. Usually for any quality dirt lid, we're looking around underneath of the 3-pound marker, although we've seen a lot of brands out there like Bell pushing into the 3 pounds and 3.5 pound area. But with Alpinestars, they are coming in just underneath of that 3-pound marker by about 3 or 4 ounces. When we're talking about the internal shape, this does fit true to size. It is a little bit more narrow getting into the helmet at the bottom port here, but the internal fit is going to be intermediate oval, so it's a little bit longer front to back than it is side to side, which is solid for most of the US market out there. I've been riding in these helmets for quite a few weeks, actually up at our local off-road park. Been ripping around in this colorway, which I really dig. Honestly, the colors on these helmets I think are what really is going to attract a lot of riders to it. They're taking a lot of what they're learning from the pro racers and putting it into the graphics. I love just the simple text style on this black and white one, and was talking with my wife and a few of the people around the office how much this colorway on my left actually looks like modern running shoes and the colorways they're going there. So I really like what Alpinestars is doing, kind of pushing the limits in terms of graphics. But otherwise, like I said, fit is going to be true to size. So as long as you see one, you measure up your head, reference that sizing chart, you should be all set with your sizing on there. Let's start at the front, work our way all the way through the shell, and talk about some of the features up there. Very classic dirt style shell. Again, almost identical to the carbon fiber SM10 out there. Really sleek lines, very narrow overall shell. It's not going to be something that catches on branches or anything while you're going by. Very sleek design, and one thing I absolutely love is how flat the back is, just to give you something to put the goggle straps on and hold onto without hindering which brand of goggles you need to go with. Alpinestars does make their own goggles, but you can fit any goggles, even like the 100% Armegas, which are some of the biggest on the market, can fit in the eye port at the front of the shell. One thing I want to talk about is ventilation, which is pretty key whether you're at the MX park, whether you're out on the trails, something you want to keep in mind. And the ventilation on here is fantastic. You're looking at the front. This is the only area that's going to have a bit of foam behind it to stop some debris. It's a debris catcher in there. You can remove it, clean it out, and then put it back inside there. So it's going to stop a lot of the dust from going inside of your mouth. But then you have matching vents down the sides that are all intake vents heading straight into the face just to cool it off. And again, the eye port being massive, that's going to allow a ton of airflow to go through as well. You do have some vents up top as well as on top of the peak. These top ones, depending on your head position, if you're a little bit more aggressive or if you're a little bit more standing up and more casual, they will change from an intake to an exhaust vent, just depending on the level that it's at. But one of the cool parts is you are getting a lot of ventilation at the back just to help all that hot air exhaust out of the helmet. And actually, while wearing it on a hot and humid day, people were able to see the steam when we came to a stop coming out of the helmet off of me, and they were joking about it just because of how much the airflow was going through. So tons of airflow, exactly what we saw with the SM10, which we did love. We have quite a few guys around the office wearing them. A lot of airflow, so I love that they didn't change that just because they were coming out with a more budget-conscious version with the SM7. The peak is going to be the same peak that we've seen from Alpinestars since they launched that SM10. It's just one that pops off on each side, and it's just going to be pressure plated inside of it. If I can pull it out here. So you can see it's just some pods that go into matching places on the shell itself. They just clip right in, something that if you do crash, it's going to pop off. It's not going to twist or tweak your neck or anything. And it pops in just as easy by pushing it down in each location, and you're back in on there. Something that doesn't pop out that easy, again, unless you've had a crash, and not some other brands out there where we've seen them just pop off of racers mid-race. This is something that's pretty sturdy, very well ventilated, something that's going to allow a lot of airflow to go through. But if you need to block any roost or the sun or anything like that, all you got to do is dip your head down. You have decent amount of protection on there. All in though, the shell, like I said, the shell is my favorite part about this helmet. And one cool part that they're starting to roll into a lot of their helmets is this shoulder cutaway. Now the SM10 had shoulder cutaways, but what they're doing is starting to incorporate their new plasma armor that they introduced in all their jackets and everything. They're actually putting a little bit of it on the sides just to protect the collarbone from sudden impacts. That's something that's pretty prone. We love that there's always a cutout in their dirt helmets. Adding a little bit more armor protection just protects that collarbone, which is very easy to break. It only takes about 7 to 10 pounds of force to break most collarbones. So it's nice that they're adding a little bit of armor in there just to make sure that it's fully protected for the riders out there. But all in, like I said, the shell is pretty sweet, but let's dive into the interior on it. It is going to be a double D-ring system for putting it on and taking it off, which is pretty classic, something I prefer out there. And one thing you'll note once I get this undone is that they do have emergency release cheek pads. Not something you want to use just on a regular basis because it can snap the tabs on the inside. Again, it's in the case of emergency, but it's nice to have that if you do crash to the track. They can try and help out getting the helmet off of your body if you are in a safe position. Nice thin cheek pads, nice contour to them, something that's gonna be very comfortable while riding. Again, I put in about each day going out there. Each day was about 6 hours of riding without really noticing the cheek pads or any uncomfortable spots inside of there. I'll pull out the top liner from the interior of the helmet. We can check out the entire interior. Top liner is pretty sweet. It is just around the crown, but it is brow mounted, so you don't have any snaps at the front to really hinder or add any pressure points, but you do get snaps at the rear where you're not going to feel them. And the one thing I want to call out in here is you get my favorite feature out of Alpinestars within this helmet, which is their A-head system. If I can show it on here without these straps thrown in there. This top liner is actually removable, but it's also adjustable. So you have 3 points from the front, 3 points in the back that you can fully adjust this helmet to sit on there, but it also acts as a rotational protection device. So you have something giving a little bit of slip on the interior of the helmet to help your head naturally absorb some of the impacts and the forces going down. We've seen tons of studies over the years, even to the point where EC 2206 has now added rotational impact protection into their testing standards, because lower speed impacts and mid-speed impacts, you're still getting a lot of issues with the brain itself hitting the ground and actually moving around. So giving that little slip allows the brain to naturally absorb some of the impacts and not just come to a sudden stop where it's actually going to do a lot more harm in there. So you can remove that A-head system on here, which I will snap out real quick. Try not to actually break it on this one. So again, if I show it to you outside of the system, very simple system with a little bit of plastic and the foam on top. You can see the snap points, and you can actually hear when I was taking it out just how robust they are. It's not going to be something that snaps out, but you can place it inside the helmet and actually change where it's sitting on your helmet, both height as well as angle, which I love. We've seen this with their SR10, their MotoGP level helmet. We saw this with the SM10 for their MXGP guys. So really cool to see having that in this more budget conscious version in there. The EPS is dyed red, but it is just standard EPS in there, and you can actually see they have speaker pockets with placeholders inside of there. Very obvious that it has the sound system logo on it, but you can remove those and add any speaker system in there that you want, because it is a 45mm speaker pocket, so anything from Cardo, from Senna, or any of the major top brands will fit inside of there. You will have a little bit of a challenge routing the wires, and trust me, I know that from personal experience, just because there's no pathways or channels in the EPS to help flow air. It's one thing I wish Alpinestars would have done is just add a little bit of groove in there just to help the hot air flow from the front of the helmet to the back and exit out of the back. But even talking about the exit out of the back, you can actually see all the ports down below, just helping pull all that air out. So I do think they did a great job with the actual exhausts themselves, with the actual vent holes themselves. I would just love to see more channels in the EPS, just helping that get out of the helmet. And one cool part in here, if I move this double D-ring pad, you can actually see the channels inside of the side pods in that plasma that they put in there. That's actually for running a hydration tube. So if you are running, say, a hands-free system, you can actually just run it up on either side of the helmet. You can run it into and in front of your mouth, so you don't have to pull up a hydration tube while racing. If you're someone that wants to save a little bit of time or not take your hands off the handlebars, that's always something that we look for. I use the USWE system, so I love that Alpinestars is incorporating the ability to add that in without having to hinder the system or dig out any of the EPS or anything like that. So I dig it. I think Alpinestars did a fantastic job with the SM7. I've been very impressed with it, especially after riding in the SM10 for years, riding in the 3 and riding in the 5 a few times as well. I think this is going to be a solid contender for Helmet of the Year for this coming 2025 to 2026 season, just because of how many features you are getting with the price savings of not including that carbon fiber out of the SM10. If you want the SM10, then that carbon fiber, it is still out there and you can ride exactly like Jet. It'll probably give you the same amount of speed around the track. But if you are like me and you're someone who's trying to save bucks just to get entry fees into the races, take a look at the SM7. I think you're going to be very impressed with it. But if you have any other questions, click that info button. That's going to take you over to the product page where you can read other rider reviews and see what other riders are saying about the all-new Alpinestars SM7 helmet. If you still have questions after that, feel free to reach out to our customer service agents. They are happy to help, happy to get you the right size and get you squared away for your next ride. I want to thank you for joining me and checking out the Alpinestars SM7 helmet. I'm Pat. I'll see you in the next video.